Welcome everybody to the Hamblen County Legislative Body Committee meetings for March 10th, 2025. I ask that all of our commissioners turn your mics on. We ask that everybody in attendance to silence your phones. I ask each of you to come to the podium to speak clearly, concisely, and once again, I ask you to please be civil, stay within the boundaries. State your problem, state what is necessary, but let's keep it civil. With that, we'll start with our committee meetings. Justice, Jail, Public Safety Committee, Chairman Tim Horner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call the Justice Center Public Safety Committee to order. If there's anyone wishing to address this committee, may do so at this time. You'll have 3 minutes.
Linda Noe, 2343 Joe Stevens Road. I hope you'll look closely at this most recent change order number 23, another $164,000 on the jail. I hope you'll find out more about how this came about, where the changes, who ordered the changes, whether they are a design problem, as so many of the change orders have been, or whether there's some other factor in this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Anyone else? Seeing none. Item 3A, old business, there is none. Item 4, new business. Item 4A, Justice Center project update, Jaron Dowater, Burwell Construction.
Good evening. Bear with me, I'm coming off of something from this weekend. But I'll try to get through this as coherently as possible. I think 3A, 3B is going to kind of meld together with the presentation of that change order as well, if that's all right, if I can
Sure.
kind of move into that as well. Ms. Trish, are there pictures available or in a minute? Okay. Well, we'll start discussing the change order itself. What you have before you is change order number 23. It consists of 3 potential change orders. Potential change order 85, which is a revision to a small staff parking lot. We have change order or potential change order 96, which is the security updates detention doors. I'll discuss all of this with you guys here shortly. I'll go through all of them completely. And then 98 is some added mesh over openings and rec yards. The change order itself presented is $164,752, which would bring the total contract value to $95,038,489.11. Let's start with PCO 85, revisions to a small staff parking lot. Right there at the entrance, I believe that's north of the entrance. What side street is that? Yeah, this main street right here.
Jackson, yeah.
Off of Jackson where you pull in. Off to the left, there's a parking lot there. Once they graded to level, we could see that there was some high banks that we had to contend with. And there's existing conditions, there's gas lines and things like that that are so high up into there, we weren't able to get in there and cut the banks back the way we needed to. So when we first started looking at this quite a few months back, we wanted to address it with just a simple retaining wall, segmented retaining wall. Build it up just a little bit, push back some dirt, slope it back so that we have no issues. Engineering got involved, as they seldom do, or as they, not seldom, but when they do, they look at all the issues that may be addressed with that. They looked at the entrance having too steep of a curve off there, which would require a guardrail and all these other issues that was coming of that. Needless to say, With those revisions, that cost was $193,000 to update this parking staff lot of 12 spaces to get it to where it would comply and be safe. We looked at that and said, that's ridiculous. We don't want to spend $193,000 for 12 parking spaces. What are our options? In the direction of the mayor and others that helped with some insight into that, we looked at it and said, why don't we just fill it in and possibly look at adding spaces later if it's needed. So what was the $193,000 change through the discussions that we've had over the last couple of months with the architect and the engineer and the contractor out there, we're bringing a credit of $8,000. We don't have the 12 spaces, but we're bringing back a credit of $8,000 on it. I think it was a good decision. The second part, 096, this is where you're going to see a bulk of that money, $138,560. I believe it was last time or the one prior, we brought forth a construction change directive number 1. That constructive change directive was a total of $192,493. That was approved by these commissioners here. The construction change directive allowed us to move forward with the project, keep the contractor moving so we're not delaying them, but we can still have accountability of what that was being done in the field. They have to provide everything in regards to what is actually put out there, the receipts of all products bought, the man hours that are associated to this. We're tracking all of that. And to this point, they have verified $138,560 of that $192,493 that we have approved. That means they still have $53,933 potential dollars that need to be vetted. Again, that CCD, that constructive change directive, is a ceiling. They can't go above that. So if they do go beyond it, it's on them at that point. So we're only allocating some into the contract so that they can actually pull and pay their subcontractors part of what we've already approved. So this is in addition to what we've discussed before. This is a portion of that constructive change direction. This is part 1 of 2. Next month, I'm assuming I'll be presenting whatever is removed at that point. PCO 98, some added mesh over openings into rec yard. On this side, my orientation is so jumbled from plans to what's out there. Let me go through some pictures. Let me see if I've got it here. So on this side where we have a fire station, some parking structures, we got a parking lot right here. It's very close to this, these rec yards that are along this side. Which way is that? North, south, east, west?
You're looking
West side of the building. Sheriff, Gino, and others had some concerns that the size of mesh that is standard, that is already on these locations, may offer an opportunity for somebody to throw something small through that, as close to proximity as they are to the parking that's out there. The public would have access to throw something up into that area is their concern, or shoot it with a slingshot or something along those lines. So the cost that we're looking at is $34,490 to add a thinner mesh on the interior of this, where we're meeting the security standards of how it is installed. It will be on 3 sides of this structure. We have a first floor, second floor, third floor on 3 sides. So all of that would be covered with this. It's at the direction and request of the Sheriff's Department, I believe, that was looking to add this to it. Any questions regarding DCO, change order 23? Yes, sir. Sorry.
It's okay.
The amount it's gonna cost the county is $138,560 plus $34,490.
And then subtract the $8,298, giving you a total of $164,752 added to the contract.
Okay. Because I was adding the 138, 560, and the 3490 comes to 173, 500. If you'd add that up, I believe you find your figures wrong.
You
We're
gotta
also
take
providing a
8,298
credit
out of
for-
that.
We're also providing a credit for the small parking lot staff. We're removing scope. So we're putting money back into it. You're getting
So if it
a
would,
deduct to that.
that's what it would have been if you hadn't given us the credit.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Chairman Horner,
Mr. Green?
I apologize. Pronounce your name for me,
It's Jaren.
Jim. Okay. My question on potential order 23, the mesh that you talked with, is already mesh there?
There is a mesh there now, yes.
Okay, did TCI require this change?
They did not.
Okay, so.
We did.
I know, but if you don't care, let me
I'm
ask,
sorry. I'm
please,
sorry.
if it's not too much trouble. My question to you is, my understanding, Gino and several of them were on that, so they should have caught it before now. And if it was a problem and they were where they ought to been, they should have caught it. So if TCI didn't recommend it, why is it so important? I understand as far as getting the contraband through, which is why we put what I call the scanner into place quite a while back at a very expensive total. So I don't understand why that all of a sudden this would come into play when they've sat on that committee all this time approving a lot of this. So why did they wait so long?
I can't speak to why they waited so long. I know this discussion has been going on for quite a few months.
I can address that for you, Ms. Green, if you prefer.
Please speak in the mic so people can hear it, please.
So the mesh that was initially put on there, it would allow for some stuff to be able to get in and we've done some research on this to come to this conclusion. It wasn't just by the spur of the, seat of our pants. We've actually seen footage and in other areas of jails where the mesh that was used here, they flew drones over to be able to drop stuff in to those facilities. So this mesh would have, it's tighter holes, it would not allow for that to happen.
Well, I understand that, but my question is, several folks have sat on that committee, and I don't know if you were on it or not.
I was
but
not,
I
but-
did look at the list, so why was this not kicked around before the match was put into place, is my
And
question.
not being at those committee meetings on that, because I wasn't on it, I can say that, I can't answer for why they didn't know, but the only thing that I could come to a conclusion on is that they didn't know the diameter of the holes that were going to be in the mesh coming over. And when it gets put in place, it was a little different than what they anticipated, I would imagine. So the mesh that they're changing over was a lot less likely to allow anything in the facility.
So the mesh that you're replacing is what was recommended initially, I'm assuming, by the architect?
We're not replacing, we're adding to.
Okay, so you're adding another layer,
Yes.
okay? But is that the mesh that's already in place there, was that what the architect initially put into the assessment?
What's in there is per spec and design. That's what's installed now.
I've got one here for you. If you won't take the mayor, go ahead. I'm sure he's more important.
No, I'm not
I had
more
my hand
important.
up
Go
first.
ahead. I'm sorry, Wayne. I'll yield.
This is in reference to Edna, and this is saving you a little. The client is the one that asked for this,
Yes.
regardless if it's on any committee or whatever. So you got no recourse on this company.
No, this
You got
company doesn't.
recourse on the people that asked for it.
I agree. The people that should have caught it initially, if they were familiar with their job and the
But the client
qualifications.
asked for it. It's not the architect's fault. It's not the builder's fault.
Okay, one more question
Thank
at you
you.
then. I yield
Wait
in
just a
case-
minute. Let the chairman
Yeah,
recognize you, please.
please.
Commissioner Green?
Thank you, Commissioner Horner. My question on the other part of the change order, the electric circuitry for the detention doors. I guess what I'm trying to find out, are they already in place or are they yet to come?
What
That's the 138,560 number,
That is what's in place today.
okay? So who requested an additional quote about the updates for that, out of curiosity? Well, according to the paperwork that I looked at, it says that there was, quotes were asked for, updates for security. I'm just curious who would ask for the updates to the detention lock power.
We're tracking all of that, so that the request is from your construction manager, and Mosley, the architect.
Okay.
We're both reviewing all of this, and verify that what they're putting in place matches what they have. They're spending what they're supposed to be spending.
So you were tracking it to ensure
Yes,
compliability, I think is the word I'm hunting.
I didn't hear the word.
Compliability,
I vote yes.
compliance. Let me clarify, my apologies. Okay. Is this a design flaw for the doors of the electrical work, out of curiosity?
This is electrical work that was missed on the plans.
When you say missed, please clarify for the old lady.
All this was discussed with the CCD when we presented that. I didn't prepare to go through all the issues that were with that CCD that's already been approved. But there is electrical power that's needed for these different security systems that weren't shown on the plans.
And whose fault would that have fell back to, out of curiosity?
It's a design flaw. It was not in the design.
So the architect?
It'll be an architect issue, yes.
Mayor?
That's not in his change, is it? That's not, what she's talking about, that's not in his change, no,
It's
is it?
the 100th part of it.
It's the 138,560,
Oh, it is?
yeah.
I didn't see that.
It's that one.
So the question is, would this need to have been in there?
Actually answered it.
Where isn't it?
Was it not on the original plans? It was not.
It's not on here.
It'll be in here. I'll get it in a minute.
Anyone else?
One more question, please, Chairman Horner.
Hang on. Go ahead.
So it should have been in the original plans?
Yes.
If you had built jails and done all this before?
Well,
Let me step in here just a minute, please. We have covered ad nauseum things that are left out, a light switch, an outlet, that has to be there. People, they're human beings, and sometimes they miss things, okay? But it has to be there by code or necessity. So they have to come back and do it. And even though we can sit here and say, well, you're responsible, you missed that, you should have known that. But ultimately, we're responsible for it financially. So there's no recourse on our part.
So Chairman Hahn, if I understand you correctly, we have to eat it?
Well, we would have had to pay for it if it was on the original plan.
Yeah, but did we not get quotes before we awarded those
We
plans,
did.
sir?
People make mistakes.
Yeah, but that's a costly mistake, sir.
Well, this is a costly project. That's the law. Okay? That's the law.
Mr. Dowalter, you could expand on this, but it's called unjust enrichment. That even though they missed it in the contract, that it would have been something we needed to begin with, and you can take and litigate this, and you will still be liable for something that you needed anyway. And he may be able to expand on that. So what you say, we have to eat it, we would have eaten it on the beginning. And that's called unjust enrichment.
May I ask the mayor a question while he's up, please, sir?
Mr. Horner.
Chairman Horner, may I ask the mayor the question while he's up, please?
Go ahead.
Being that you brought up that in litigation, when can we expect a report from the attorney on the litigations?
Yes, ma'am. That report will come at the end when negotiations have concluded.
Can you give us a prospective date on that, please, sir?
No, ma'am, I cannot. The jail is not completed yet.
Well, can we expect at least a preliminary report?
No,
on
ma'am,
what
you
it is?
cannot. We do not have that prepared yet.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Horner.
Anyone else? Mr. Towers?
If I may, Mr. Horner, I just want to say one thing. We've went through a lot of these change orders. I've dealt with mechanics, building, and everything for 40 years at my job. maintenance supervisor at Molly, for those that don't know. I've seen a lot of construction, I've seen a lot of drawings, I've seen a lot of change orders come about every time something happens. The only thing I can say about this is we are human, every one of us. We err. There was only ever one perfect being on this earth, and he died for our sins. The rest of us make mistakes. And anybody that don't think they do, they're not to his level. Thank you, Mr. Warner.
Anyone else? Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Jaron. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Horner. We now move to our Finance Committee. Chairman Rodney Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Call the Finance Committee to order. Anybody wish to speak to the committee on agenda items only, you'll have 3 minutes. Ms. Holden,
Yes, sir.
go ahead.
My name is Gwen Holden. I live at 8150 West Point Drive. I oppose any change to the county attorney's private act. Mr. Capps needs to follow the current law. Over the past years, he has represented Stansville Ford to try and help him get unlawful payments that he received while serving on the Solid Waste Board. Then he double dipped and took unlawful payments as county attorney. Now, I have a lawsuit against the road commissioners who took unlawful payments when they were paid for meetings they did not attend. So, the private act should not be changed to suit Mr. Capps.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Justine Jones, 3436 Old Kentucky Road. I stand before you today to oppose the proposed amendment regarding the county attorney's compensation. This amendment is not about improving policy. It is an attempt to rewrite history and justify years of improper payments using taxpayer dollars. For over 6 years, the county attorney was paid a $100 monthly retainer specifically for attending finance and commission meetings. At the same time, he was also billing hourly for attending those same meetings. That is double dipping, plain and simple. He was being paid twice for the same work, using taxpayer money. Now that this fraudulent practice has been exposed, rather than addressing the wrongdoing, this body is considered changing the rules to make it appear legal after the fact. That is not accountability. That is not ethical leadership. That is covering up misconduct. If this amendment passes, what message does it send? That when public officials are caught misusing funds, they can simply rewrite the rules to justify their actions? That there are no consequences for fraud, only cover-ups? That taxpayer money is just a personal slush fund for those in power? The responsibility of this commission is to serve the people, not to protect those who have abused the system. Instead of bending the rules to accommodate unethical behavior, we should be holding those responsible accountable and assuring the taxpayer money is spent honestly and transparently. I urge you as our representatives to reject this amendment and instead take real steps to ensure that taxpayer money is never misused like this again. Do the right thing, not for yourselves, but for the people who put you in these seats. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Does anyone else address the committee? Snowy.
Linda Noe, 2343 Joe Stevens Road. I too oppose any change, or in particular, this change to the private act. At one time, our county attorney was elected. At one time, our county attorney received $750 as a salary. And then this was changed. Most of this occurred in 1968 and 1988, where it was changed a little bit like the road commission. Suddenly there was this: upon attending the commission and committee meetings, the county attorney would receive $1,200 per year. As Ms. Jones pointed out, you're simply rewarding somebody who double dipped for over 6 years. And when it was found out by Ms. Green and pointed out, this commission did nothing to address it, and Mr. Capps did not simply say, "I'm sorry, I'll pay it back." That would have been the thing to do. Of course, now, here we are. I can see why perhaps he didn't do that. Now he's got this proposal by Mr. Long to say, hey, you got the $1,200, and hey, now you can charge for attending meetings. Ms. Jones is absolutely right. This does nothing. In fact, nothing for the taxpayers. It does everything for Mr. Capps, and it takes money from the taxpayers. So do what you choose, but choose wisely. Choose for the people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? If not, we will move to number 3, your recurring business. You'll have your expense road reports and your monthly checks. I hope everyone's went over them. 4A, we have no new business. Old business, excuse me. 5A, new business. We'll start with 5A, amending the private act for the county attorney. If you turn to your page with the section 1 and section 3 on it, this is for consideration of the amendments to the private act of 1949, chapter 677/county attorney. In section 1, it would state that there is hereby created the office of the county attorney for Hamblen County. The county attorney shall be elected by the Hamblen County Commission annually at the September meeting designated for the election of the county attorney. I think what we'll do is vote these separate. I think would be the best way to handle these. Do I hear a motion on section 1?
So moved.
First by Ms. Ahern.
Second.
Second. Second by Thomas Doty. Any discussion on the item?
This was Chairman Long.
You're recognized, Ms. Green.
Thank you, sir. Originally, if I have my information correct, that was 1967-68. So that one don't roll all the way back.
I'm sorry.
And initially, they were appointed. Now, I know we do that each September now, and I understand that, but I really think we need to consider a few things more seriously than we are now. But thank you for the opportunity, sir.
Anyone else? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Section 3 is the county attorney for services shall be paid an annual retainer fee of $1,200 payable in equal monthly installments out of the general fund of the county. by warrant of the county judge or chairman upon the trustee for legal services performed on behalf of the county attorney shall be entitled to receive additional reasonable compensation and reimbursement for actual expenses incurred. All compensation and reimbursement is subject to review by the county legislative body through the consent calendar. Claims for expenses shall be itemized and certified by the county attorney upon standard county financial policies, shall be paid in the same manner as the retainer and other fees. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Ahern? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Doty. Any discussion? Ms. Hyde?
Yes, sir, thank you. So how is this different from what's happening right now?
Well, basically, are you talking about Section 3, correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. Basically, what it does is he's paid the retainer, but then he charges us for additional expenses.
I got that, but that's kind of what he had.
There's only like one line different in it. Mr. Mayor, you want to address?
I think at your desk you'll find the original 1949 Act,
Everybody.
and it was amended in 67 and 68. If you look at the very first line, it's at your desk.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the very first line, it says that for attendance upon the meetings, the new language is not incumbent on attendance. It is a true retainer, as this body has recognized it to be over the years. It's a retainer. That's the change, and it's just amending the private act to reflect that.
So that's the difference in, and what we're proposing is attendance is not.
Incumbent, yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Understand, okay.
Yeah, you keep one passing it.
He still paid for his services just as normal. I pointed out when I brought this to your attention in February that if we went by today's dollars, that $1 in 1967-68 would equal $11,340 today. Or, well, it's $9.45 an hour. Or, that $1 equals $9.45, which would equal, that $1,200 would equal $11,340. So if you want to compare apples to apples, that dollar today is quite a bit more. $1,200 for a retainer is pretty cheap.
Thank you. May I ask?
Go ahead, Miss.
Okay, I guess is this the third line from the end? Claims for expenses shall be itemized and certified by county attorney. Is that what's happening right now?
Yes, ma'am. That's when he sends us charges.
Yes, sir.
He has put his stamp of approval. Those charges are his.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I got that. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Is anyone else? Ms. Green?
Chairman Long, if I'm reading correctly, the 67-68, it was an annual retainer upon attending. It was for him to attend the meetings, finance and commission. And in all fairness, I've looked at Mr. Capps' bill. He bills for everything else. So I don't know why we need to change this to give him any leniency. He gets paid the retainer where he attends or where he does not, is my understanding. He is not held to a higher standard. And as far as his itemized expenses, they could certainly use a little more itemization than they have. And they could surely take a better explanation. We have paid him all the way through. He doesn't work for free. At $175 an hour that we gave him not too long ago and upped his pay, He is well paid for what he does. He is paid by planning, he's paid by the mayor's office, he's paid by, if I remember correctly, several of the other departments as well, if I've reviewed my bills correctly. So I don't know why we need to change this. I don't even know why we need to ask for it. Hamblen County citizens are forking out enough money now.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Ms. Ahern?
I'm just going to clarify, the one I'm holding in my hand is the old document, correct?
Yes.
It says 1949, correct. It also says in paragraph 3, it's 1967, 1980, to 1968. I'm just making sure I'm reading this correctly. It says he'll be paid $1,200 for the attendance upon the county court. We've gone over that. And an annual retainer fee of $1,200 payable to equal monthly installments. We've gone over that. Then it also says for legal services performed on behalf of the county attorney shall be entitled to receive additional responsible compensation and reimbursement for actual expenses incurred. Is that not correct? And that's not what we're talking about now. Is that not correct? I just will make sure I understand the verbiage. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'll clarify there.
Yes. That's correct. Yes, that is correct. That's the way it reads right now.
Is anyone else? Have no further discussion. Let's vote the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. We'll move to item 5B, budget amendment. Amanda Hale, Finance Director. Item I, Fund 101, courtroom security, $1,390.
The budget amendment in front of you is to move money back into the expense line for courtroom security for some training that some officers signed up for. The training got canceled. We received a reimbursement check, and this is to recognize that revenue and then put the money back into the associated expense line.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion. Second.
Mr. Walker. Second by Mr. Harville. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B2, Fund 101, the Circuit Court, $4,050.
The circuit court clerk has asked to move money from her reserve funds so that she can purchase some additional scanners for her office. So no use of fund balance, just reserve funds for the circuit office.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
First by Mr. Commissioner Harville, and then second by Mr. Huntsman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, Fund 101, Civil Defense, $210.
The EMA office purchased some jackets for their volunteers, and the volunteers are reimbursing the county for that. And so this recognizes the revenue, $210 we received from them, and puts the money back into Director Bell's uniform line.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Huntsman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Doty. Any discussion?
I got one question. Do you know how many jackets, how many people this involved?
We have quite a few volunteers.
I guess my question is, or my statement is, we have people volunteering for county EMS, or, excuse me, EMA. And they have to buy their own jacket.
They're truly not volunteers anymore. We pay them on a part-time basis. That was approved during this year's budget. They had been volunteers, but now for every event that they work, they get a minimum amount. But we are not, in this case, we did not cover the purchase of these jackets. And they're reimbursing.
Well, thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 4, 101, other facilities, maintenance of $6,955.
The maintenance supervisor came to me a few weeks ago, and he is down to one part-time employee. And so what that means is that the full-time employees that he does have are having to pick up the extra workload and in turn accumulating overtime that wasn't anticipated. So we feel that moving $6,500 and then the $455 will cover for through the end of the year the overtime that his full-time folks are going to incur, and then take it out of the part-time line since no one but one person is getting paid out of that right now.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
By Mr. Doty, do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's vote the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. B5, Fund 101, planning for $450.
This budget amendment is to move $450 to increase the secretary's current salary by 3% through the remainder of the year. With the former planning director being gone, the secretary has picked up additional duties, and this feels like Mr. McKinney thinks that, that because of those extra duties, that the secretary is more than deserving for this extra 3% through the end of the year.
Do I hear a motion?
Question.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Shouldn't this
Wait
wait?
just a second.
Get it on the floor first.
Need to get it on the floor, Mr. Neesmith.
I'm sorry.
Need to get it a motion and a second.
Okay, go
I have a
ahead.
first by Mr. Doty. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ahern. Mr. Neesmith.
Shouldn't this wait to the next budget in about 2 months?
We assume that it will be in the next budget, but in the meantime, she's already and has been performing these duties since Tina left.
Has her duties changed since she started?
Yes. She's picking up additional things that she didn't when Tina was here.
Thank you.
Is anyone else? Ms. Howe?
Yes, sir, thank you. So she's in Tom McKinney's office? Okay,
She's the
thank you.
secretary in the planning
All
department.
right, thank you, thank you.
Anyone else? Let's vote to motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. B6, Fund 101, Sheriff's Department, $400.
This one is also for training that was canceled. The sheriff's department had signed up for training, and we received a reimbursement check because that training was canceled. So this recognizes the revenue and puts the money back in that expense line.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Howe. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harville. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's vote the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6-7, Fund 101, Sheriff's Department of $13,380.
Each year, excuse me, the sheriff's department receives the salary supplement from the state. for post-certified officers. And every year we budget a certain dollar amount for officers to receive this $800 supplement. This year, the state gave a special, one-time, additional salary supplement. And now they have come back and offered another special bonus salary supplement just for the SRO officers.
Good.
So this budget amendment is for those funds that were attributed to the special salary supplements and then the associated taxes and retirement, because the state, the SRO, the post-certified supplement does not cover the taxes and the retirement.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Walker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Huntsman. Any discussion? Ms. Green?
Chairman, quick question. SROs is something that I'm very interested in. So if I understand you, I understood that they got the first 800 because I was talking to one of the wives today. But will they get this whole second 800 if this goes through? When will they get it is my next $100 question.
At the end of the month, you all approve it, we'll put it on the March 31st.
And I'm assuming you will go ahead at that point and pull your matching Social Security, Medicare, and all that good stuff from it as well. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Long.
Anyone else? Let's vote the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Hale. We'll move on to 5C, purchase of a new garbage truck. Mike Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have an opportunity to purchase a rear-load garbage truck that's in stock. We're in desperate need of vehicles on the garbage side. For information, last year we picked up about 16,527 tons of household garbage, 5,975 tons of construction/brush debris, 500 tons of recycle, and then the debris that came from Helene was 22,000 cubic yards. That was in a period of 10/24 to 12/24. So along with that, our weekly can pickup is somewhere around 19,818 cans per week. If you do the math, that's about 80 cans an hour per truck. We run 5 trucks plus a recycle truck. The problem we're having is our maintenance. We have spent last year alone $63,000 in maintenance. Year before that, $97,000. Year before that, $100,980. What this means is we just keep our trucks in the, we're keeping our trucks in the repair shop. We have, like I said, we have 5 trucks that run on a normal basis plus our recycle truck. We have additional spares out that we've just kind of kept. 2 weeks ago, we had 3 trucks brought in one day on wrecker service. 4 weeks ago, we ran 12 trucks to get 1 day finished. We had 4 trucks on 1 route a week ago. So our trucks are in dire shape. So we have an opportunity to we found one on the floor, if you will, and that's about $250,000 that we've asked for. This is coming out of fund balance. Any additional information, Ms. Amanda? Okay. Any questions? Our oldest truck is a 2001. Our newest truck is a 2023. The two of those are 23 models, and we're spending about $10,000 a year on the average to repair those. If we go back 3 or 4 trucks, we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of about $10,000 or $12,000 each truck, on up to $25,000 a truck for maintenance. We have actually spent more on repair and maintenance on some of the trucks than we paid for them. One truck, our oldest truck, we paid $41,339 for it, and we've spent $56,384 repairing it. So, our request is to fund this, this rear load garbage truck, through the, fund balance.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Let's get a first and a second, then we'll open the floor for discussion. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Howe. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Huntsman. Mr. Neesmith.
Question. How many trucks you got on the road all the time, supposed to have?
We have 5, we call garbage trucks, and 1 recycle truck, and that's what we use daily.
So you got 6. How many garbage trucks you got?
12. So what happens on days that we have, like holidays, we have to have double days. We'll use some of those trucks to pick up, the holidays. We'll use some of the trucks. We'll send them out down the road and they'll break down. We'll have to go back and pick up another truck and run that out.
Okay, some of these trucks, you give down, are you spending $9,000? That's not bad for getting maintenance and fixing the garbage truck.
Now
But when you get into your $60,000, $70,000, and $80,000 trucks, they need to be repaired. I think you need to ask for 4 or 5 more, so when these trucks go out, you don't have to send 4 trucks out to finish your job.
We have an automated side loader coming due. It was due in October. It didn't show up. It was due in January, didn't show up. The last we heard was sometime at the end of the year, fall, end of the year, for that automated side loader. If we had that, the next cycle, if we had another automated side loader and probably 1 more rear loader, we'd be back up to par with our trucks and retire some of these old trucks out.
How many one of these side loaders, how many will they replace back loaders?
We don't know exactly, but what we've heard is they'll pick up at least half as much more than we've got. So the city trucks do more than that, but their routes are, more condensed. So we'll have to experiment with our side loader when it comes in, run a route, see what we can do with it, and then restructure our daily routes.
What do you do with all these old trucks you're not using?
Well, we'll put them on govbid.com. That's what we're planning on doing.
And what?
Govbids.com.
That's where no need to spending new money on old trucks that old, and that don't work. You're throwing away money every year.
We are.
Yeah.
But our plan is to upgrade and get this back into a rotation if we can.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Ms. Howe.
thank you, sir. When my dishwasher, I'll tell the repairman, tell me when it's dead. And he'll repair it, and he'll repair it, and he'll repair it, and then he'll say, and then I start to look at how much it costs to repair it, and then I'm going, maybe I need a new one. And that's kind of where I feel like we are with this garbage truck, that we need to call it DOA right there. But now, when will you get it?
If we approve this truck that's on the market, or on the lot now, we'll get it as soon as we have the approval. By the end of the month, if it's approved, we can write the check at the end of the month, and it's there.
Mike, how many trucks I got on the lot right now?
Well, they had 2, and they sold 1, so we have 1 that we.
If you've got money in fund balance, why don't you go ahead and get the 2?
Well, that'd be a decision of the commission.
500.
That'd be a decision of the commission. We'd take whatever we could get.
You're gonna need them.
We do need them.
Is there anyone else? Ms. Green?
I understand you correctly, Mike, this is coming out of fund balance that's already there.
Fund balance for the garbage side.
Okay.
And they have a healthy fund balance.
They have quite a bit there.
Yes, we have enough for that.
Got the money spent.
Now, is that I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is that taking into account all the maintenance and the towing that you're having done? Because I looked back at what you had spent as far as the towing and otherwise, and some of it was quite a bit.
This number that I gave you is only for pieces, parts that will show up. That doesn't include the time that are, labor, and doesn't include some of the towing that, comes out of it comes out of the same pile, but it's not documented the same way.
Not itemized the same way?
Excuse me?
Not itemized the same way?
It is, but it's just not it doesn't show up on our tickets. We write a repair ticket.
Okay.
And that just usually covers the maintenance, or the pieces, parts that we account for. So we have, in addition to that, 3 mechanics that work, in the shop all the time. And they spread their love around with, highway and garbage, but most of it's on the garbage side. And we also have an outside vendor that comes in that has, the necessary tools to perform analysis on some of the depth programs and stuff, the DEF fluids, that. So we utilize everything we can to keep these things on the road. It's on a brush truck, if we miss a brush day, you can go get it the next day. If we miss a garbage day, we get a lot of phone calls.
And you should.
For sure.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. I think there'll be some other issues that we'll have to address when budget time rolls around.
Yes.
Sometimes when you don't do maintenance like you're supposed to on vehicles, this is what ends up happens. And I think we've just got in a place where the equipment has got so much age on it, miles and hours, that hydraulic cylinders and everything are just not working. So I appreciate you bringing that.
You're welcome.
Let's vote to motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will go to 5D, budget amendment, Fund 116, garbage sanitation for $250,000, and this is for the purchase of the new garbage truck. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Huntsman. Second. Second by Mr. Walker. Any discussion on that? If not, let's vote the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is items of interest. Make sure that you go over all of those. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Chairman Long. We'll now move to the Audit Committee, and again back to Chairman Rodney Long.
Thank you. Call the Audit Committee to order. Anyone wishing to address this committee may do so at this time. You have 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move to 3A, old business, which is none. 4, new business. A, presentation of the Hamblen County Government Audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. Ms. Amanda Hale.
So tonight, we're going to go through the audit for 23-24. The audit was released by the Comptroller's Office on February the 18th, and a copy of the full report can be found on the Comptroller's website, and there's also a link on our website. I'd like to thank tonight our East Tennessee Audit Manager, Robert Henderson, and Auditor Cody Edson for being with us tonight. So if there are any questions that I can't help or you would like to ask them, they're here for that tonight. So on this slide, we'll start out and go over our fund balance totals in each of the major funds. So the first one that we'll look at is the general fund. in fiscal year in '24, our net revenues were up just around $2.9 million. So in turn, our fund balance grew from 13 million to almost 16 million for that fiscal year '24. We collected roughly $2 million additional money from local taxes, and our grant funds were up as well, with most of that increase coming from the new SRO program and from the money that the city and the school system contribute to that SRO program. Our expenses were also up around 1.4 million. But again, a lot of that comes from the SRO program. So even though the expenses were up, it was offset by the increase in revenue. In addition to the SRO program, one of the largest increases we had last year was due to we raised medical premiums, and the county put more additional funds in for employee insurance than they had in the prior year. So we had anticipated roughly $1.4 million, using $1.4 million in fund balance, but instead we grew the fund balance almost $3 million. But again, Bill would always say we try to budget conservatively and estimate revenues low and expenses high. So that's just evidence of that. So the next slide there in your packet has to do with unassigned fund balance. And unassigned fund balance is just fund balance that isn't restricted or committed or assigned. And we can use those funds on capital projects or maybe unanticipated expenses that we might have. For 24-25, that amount was just over $4 million. So unassigned balance grew $1 million. And the next slide is related to unassigned fund balance. And as a general rule, you'd like to see that the percentage of unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenses to be around 20 to 25%. And as you can tell, ours is at 41. So that's a good thing, that we have adequate working capital to meet unexpected expenses or maybe a decrease in revenue that we weren't anticipating. The next fund is the sanitation fund. And this kind of goes back to what y'all just talked about with the garbage truck. Our fund balance was down slightly, but still is at around 2.7 million. And our expenses were around 3 million for the year, 1 million in disposal fees alone, and then over 200,000 in repair costs. So back to what Mike was saying, so much is going out to do with repair. With the fund balance ending around 3 million, that puts our percentage of expenditures around 86%. So again, we're looking for 20 to 25, so 86%, that's very well, to hit that percentage mark for sanitation. And on the next slide is the highway fund. The highway department fund was up almost $400,000 for fiscal year in '24, to a total of $619,000. The majority of this revenue comes from the gas and motor fuel tax. We put investment income in there as well, and our total expenses were roughly $4.5 million. And with our fund balance being $619,000, that percentage that we're looking for highway is at 13.6. Now last year it was 6, so we're doing better, but we're still not to that 20 or 25% mark that you'd like to see. And this was also after we moved $438,000 out of what normally would have been in highway out to highway capital projects for paving equipment and such. And the last major fund that we'll go over here is the General Debt Service Fund. And it's pretty much flat from the year before. We had $10 million in revenue and about $10 million in interest and principal payments that we made on our debt. So it's remained pretty steady. Excuse me. So the next section that we'll go into is the findings for this past year. The county did receive an unmodified opinion and no material weaknesses were identified, but we did have 3 findings. And this information is in your packet, but we're going to go through those. You can read through that, but I'm going to start. On the page that actually lists the findings. So on item A, expenditures exceeded appropriations approved by county commission for capital outlay in the highway department by $94,438. So just a little bit of backstory to that. In March of '24, we issued a purchase order to APAC for resurfacing the project, and the PO was around $258,000. So this was the estimated cost of the project. And then at the end of August, the previous highway superintendent came with the invoice, and the invoice was $106,000 more than the estimate. Well, at the end of August, it's too late to bring a budget amendment to you all. It's too late to really do anything, and we didn't have enough funds in the line to cover it. So therefore, at the end of the year, that line ended up being overspent by $94,000. We believe that a change in management and the purchase order process being followed through will prevent anything like this happening going forward. You can read, there's management responses and corrective action plans in your packet. But I think the problem will rectify itself with the new staff we have in place. Item B is to do with salaries. Salaries exceeded appropriations in 9 out of 160 salary lines, ranging from $142 to $19,501. So on this one, that's on me. I did not realize that it was individual line specific. So for example, 4 of the 9 overspent lines were in the sheriff's department. And I thought as a whole, in salary, that's what mattered. So as for the sheriff's department, their total salary lines, I had over budgeted. I had $209,000 too much money in those. But what mattered is the individual lines. So 4 out of their individual lines, one of them was overtime. A couple more was like I had a lieutenant and a sergeant line and vice versa. You know, it was a matter of classification. So knowing that now, I will not let that happen again. That's on me. And closer to this end of year, we'll be sure that I'm looking at individual line items and not a grouping of lines for a department. The next finding is finding 2024-002. This is a repeat finding regarding the payroll and attendance records for the sanitation department. This issue came to light in fiscal year 22-23 and was a finding because sanitation workers were getting paid for hours not worked. Previous highway superintendent came and addressed that with you all, but the practice continued. And so therefore, this finding is a repeat. And with the change in administration, precautions are now being taken to where this doesn't happen again. They're using a time clock. They're only getting paid for hours worked. They've centralized their timesheets and attendance records into the finance department. So we think all of that as a whole, this won't be an issue this year. So, and then the very last finding there, 2024-003 relates to the EMA office and misuse of county vehicles. In April 24, an investigative report was issued from the comptroller's office and identified that the agency director used the county vehicle for personal use and made personal social media posts during reported work hours. The previous mayor met with the EMA director last year and discussed the guidelines for using a county vehicle and our vehicle use policy. The very next slide just shows that there was no findings for federal grants. And then the next few pages in your packet there have to do with our management corrective action plan. And very last slide. Each year, the comptroller's office recommends best practice is that the county should adopt a centralized accounting, budgeting, and purchasing system. The schools operate on their own software, their own financial accounting system. We have ours, and so ideally they would be combined, but again, it's just a recommendation only. I'm sorry. Thank you for the lengthy report. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer those.
Thank you, Ms. Hale. This time we'll get a motion to accept the audit. Then we'll have discussion. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
A motion by Mr. Doty. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Horner. Open the floor for discussion. Ms. Green?
Thank you, Commissioner Long. Miss Amanda, my question is on the part I'm reading from that audit was that commissioners were overpaid, road commissioners were overpaid $10,443 for meetings they did not attend. So my question is that in that total? Okay, is the 4 meetings that were not canceled, and I'm thinking about 4,600, was that considered in it at all?
No, the audit did not address.
Why not? It's county money.
They reviewed everything and didn't find that that was, anything that warranted their address as a finding.
One more question, please. I know that now our county attorney is fighting the court case on behalf of the commissioners, road commissioners that took that money illegally, unlawfully, or whatever. Did they look at that at all? Where that Hamblen County was furnishing the attorney there?
That was part of the, in looking at the 23-24 audit, anything that happened prior to June 30th of 24 that's all been, gone through and looked at, and these were the findings that they noted.
Oh, I didn't find anything addressing that part at all. If you did, please enlighten me, because I'm very much interested in it.
They did not classify that as a finding.
Anyone else? Mr. Neesmith?
You mentioned about some of the findings came back again this year. Why? We didn't take care of those two from EMS and road department last year?
The one on the sanitation workers, Wayne, it was last year's audit, and then it did not get corrected.
Didn't
They
get
continued
corrected.
to receive money for hours that they didn't work.
Didn't get that corrected last year. EMS get corrected?
Yes, it's been corrected, but if you might remember when we did the audit report last year, it was still an ongoing investigation. So now it wrapped up in April with everything, and they issued their investigative report. So everything has been corrected now.
Okay, I wasn't here last year when they did it. So
hopefully neither of these will be an issue when we have our audit for
But
24-25.
it's supposed to be corrected this year. It won't show up next year.
That's right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Mr. Horner?
So all these findings have been addressed.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Howell?
Even though the guys may have gotten paid more for work they didn't do, but the work got done. I just need to make sure it wasn't like they, okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Anyone? Go ahead,
The
Ms.
previous superintendent addressed it, that this was something that they started during COVID, and that when they got done running their routes, he let them go home, you know, and so as far as I know, that's
Yeah.
how they were getting the job done, but recording hours that they did not.
It's different, okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Ms. Green?
One more question, please. You said it had been corrected. I'm assuming by correction, you mean they put a time clock in. So when did they put the time clock in?
I'm not sure when the time clock went in, but as soon as the new administration came into place, they quit the practice of paying them for hours not worked. So even without a time clock, I don't know if it was there on day one, Ms. Green, or not, but as long as we weren't paying them, we don't have like a time clock for courthouse employees, but we record our hours accurately. So as long as they're recording them accurately, that's the number one goal. And then secondly, now they have this time clock, which I'm not sure, I can't verify when they got it, but it's just, I guess, you know, additional level of protection against that.
Well, the reason I asked the question, when they had the training sessions in Nashville in September for the new road commissioners as well as for the new superintendent, Mr. Jeff made the remark that that none of that had been corrected. So when he went into office, it was not corrected as soon as he went in. Because we went in for that training session after the election.
Ms. Green, if you'll look in there, this page,
I can't see it from here, but you.
Well,
Page 230.
page 230,
Explains
231, it addressed, they put a time clock in, it was defective, it didn't work. So they got a new one in November 18th, 2024.
Thank you, sir. It took a long time, didn't it, from September to November?
Anyone else?
They put one in and it was broken. It didn't work, so I guess it was time to get another one.
Anyone else? If not, let's vote to motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. I do want to bring something to attention. The duties of the audit committee. The duties of this committee is set in Tennessee law. We are to carefully review and upon completion of the county's annual audit, all the findings, results, and corrections that are put in place. We are to consider the effectiveness of the inner control system, including security, control, monitoring, and ethics policy. We are to establish a process by which employees, taxpayers, and citizens may confidentially report suspicious, illegal, improper, wasteful, or fraudulent activities. And we are to have annually present a written committee report detailing how it discharged its duty with any committee recommendations to the full commission, and we will do that after it passes the full commission. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Chairman Long. We'll now move to the Public Services Committee. Chairman Mike Richards. Let's go back.
Doty's got something first. Don't leave Doty out.
Yeah, I do apologize.
Hey, leave me out.
And we will do the Personnel Committee. Chairman Thomas Doty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call the Personnel Committee meeting to order. If there's anyone wishing to address this committee, you may do so now. You'll have 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move forward. Old business, we have none. New business, we have the approval of education pay submissions, and we have 2 employees that, for consideration at this time. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Mr. Danny Bell, thank you, sir. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll move forward. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman
Hey, Thomas,
Dolan. Again, I
nobody ever
apologize
asked you
for
a
that
question.
gaff food.
Nobody ever asked you.
Now then, we'll move to the Public Services Committee. Chairman Mike Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Call the Public Services Committee to order. Any visitor wishing to address the committee about agenda items only, you have 3 minutes. Seeing none, with item 3, old business, we have none. Item 4A, understanding the countywide reappraisal, Keith Ely, assessor of properties. Mr. Ely, you have 3 minutes. You got half the notebook, but 3 minutes.
Schedule for the reappraisal, where we're at right now. My office is on schedule to finish our part on the 28th of this month. The first week of April, we'll be sending out a 5 or 7 postcards to every taxpayer in the county explaining the reappraisal to them. May 2nd, the reappraisal notices will go out from the state, be mailed out from Nashville that day. June the 2nd, the County Board of Equalization will go in session at that point. Hopefully we'll be done by the 20th of June so we can turn all the numbers over to the state so they can calculate the certified tax rate for you all. That's where we're at on that. In your package, you'll see, and I'm not going to go through every line of them. I mean, I'm assuming everybody's read it, but if you go to the first tab, it just explains what a countywide appraisal is. If you go to the second tab, that is an example of what the postcard's going to look like when it goes out the first week of April to the taxpayers, so they can understand the reappraisal and don't get blindsided. We've done that for the first time in 2020, and it worked well. Everybody was appreciative of that. Section 3 is understanding the certified tax rate calculation. That's where you all have some major concerns, and I think basically explains it, gives you the formula of it. It basically is what your tax levy was in 2024 divided what your new 2025 assessment will be, and that'll calculate your new certified tax rate. Section 4 is your certified rate compliance. That's just the TCA law, so you all will understand that. It gets in some depth also if you decide to go above the certified tax rate, what you have to do that. Okay. And then Section 5, I know that's a lot of paperwork there, but I wanted you all to see what we've dealt with in sales. These are sales that's happened from January 1 of 2021 through December 31st of 2024. There's roughly almost 4,700 sales, and this is just residential. There are no industrial, commercial sales or anything in this. And we have 22,000 residential parcels in the county, so we're roughly at 21%. So we got a good sampling of what's going on in this county over the last 4 years. And that's what's going to be reflected on the new reappraisal when it goes out. And that's all I have, Chairman Richardson.
Great.
That's less than 3 minutes.
That's less than 3 minutes. You've done a good job. Any questions? Mr. Long?
Hey, Keith, are you gonna be here the rest of the meeting?
Mr. Long?
Are you estimating somewhere between 60, 70% maybe?
Close to 70%.
If you look at these here, it's,
Oh, you see a lot of numbers a lot higher than 70%.
yes, that's what I'm seeing.
200, 300% increase.
Yeah, that's what's alarming me.
Just a good example here, the very first page. And some people's going to say, well, you had a bad reappraisal in 2020. If you go down to line item 22 there was a sale on that property on May the 1st of 19, sold for $382,000. You can see that it sold in 2024 for $1,175,000. And we had $399,200 what we put on the property in the 2020 reappraisal. So I mean, we was within $17,000. I mean, that's pretty good, guys. If you go down the line item 33, That's property sold for $800,000 on March the 20th of 20. We put $792,300 on it. That property turned around and sold in August of 22 for $1.3 million. Turned around and sold again in 24 for $1,425,000. But now that's throughout. Now that's to the extreme, okay?
Yes.
But that's what you're seeing.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's just for information only, correct? There's no vote required for
It's
that.
information.
Information only. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Richardson. We will now move to the RV Camper Study Committee. Chairman Kyle Walker.
I call to order the RV Camper Study Committee. If we have any visitors that would like to speak, you have 3 minutes. Please step to the podium.
My name is Tom Bakke. I live at 4679 Harbor Drive.
Excuse me, would you spell your last name?
Sure, it's Bache.
Thank you, sir.
I thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to address the commission about this topic with regard to the campers being used as housing. I'd like to remind you of a letter that I sent to all of you on December 4th discussing this initially, and I gave some examples of places that I would encourage you to go and look at. I didn't bring any pictures out of privacy concerns, but they're easy to see along the road, so they're not hard to find. I'd like to personally encourage the committee not to allow campers or RVs to be used as housing. There's lots of legal reasons for this. None of them meet any kind of state or federal code. They're intended to be recreational use only, and probably everybody else understands this better than I do. There are official businesses close by that accommodate campers. If you want to go camping or you want to put up your RV, there's plenty of places nearby that are legal, they have facilities for it, and there's no real reason for us to be allowing people to just back it in the driveway and hook it up with an extension cord. In my letter, I provide the addresses. I talked about that. If you've taken the time to drive by, you see the deplorable conditions a lot of these places are in. They're a health hazard at the very least and an eyesore to those of us that have to drive by them every day. I'd like you to consider the majority of the county taxpayers who take pride in their place of residence and would like to continue to live in clean surroundings. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Hello, my name is Emily Williams. My friend lives in a camper, and he is up to code on everything. He has a sewer, he has running water and everything. My friend is very sick, and he wants that to be his home until God calls him home. And his place is not an eyesore, as he wants to call it. He has a beautiful place. It's out in the country, and I see no reason why he should have to move from his place that he calls home. So I really encourage you all to please let him stay there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else like to speak?
Justine Jones, 3436 Old Kentucky Road. The right to use and enjoy one's property is a fundamental liberty protected by the 5th and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution. The 5th Amendment states that private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. While this proposal does not physically take property, restricting how property owners can use their land is a form of regulatory taking. Additionally, the Tennessee State Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, guarantees that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property, but by the judgment of his peers or of the law of the land. This means the government cannot arbitrarily restrict property rights without a compelling public interest, which does not exist here. But I've already told you all this. Hamblen County citizens have been standing at this podium for months trying to be heard, giving this Board of Counsel every aspect of how this is constitutionally, legally, and fundamentally wrong. Here is to hoping tonight's voices don't fall on deaf ears. How about the fact that RVs and campers are subject to firm regulations when being built? These regulations ensure safety, quality, and compliance with federal and industry standards. National Fire Protection Association 1192 covers fire safety, propane systems, and electrical wiring. The Recreational Vehicle Industry Association ensures manufacturers comply with safety and construction standards. Most RVs sold in the U.S. carry an RVIA seal, meaning they meet these requirements. RVs must follow NEC standards, Article 551 for wiring safety. Plumbing systems comply with NSF and EPA standards for water safety. RVs must pass wind resistance, weight distribution, and road stability tests before they can be legally sold. So not only are you not in compliance with our constitutional rights, but your whole argument about campers being unlivable is false. Campers and RVs are built under strict regulations to ensure they are safe for occupancy and travel. They meet fire, electrical, and road safety codes, making them a viable and legal option for temporary or full-time living. Any claims that campers are inherently unsafe or unregulated are incorrect. In light of these considerations, I urge the Commission to reconsider the proposed regulations. They not only pose potential infringements on constitutional rights, but also overlook the viability and safety of camper living when proper precautions are observed. We should aim for policies that respect individual freedoms and property rights while ensuring the well-being of our community. This gentleman addressed places that are an eyesore, but I bet none of those got letters. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Joseph Hahn, 1400 Shinbone Road, Russellville, Tennessee, 37860. By approving these rules and regulations, this commission is zoning all parcels the same, from the smallest residential lot to the largest parcel of agriculture or forestry property. This regulation will restrict associations like Ducks Unlimited, the Turkey Federation, the National Deer Association, and like-minded people from gathering on their large parcel of land in Hamblen County to hunt, fish, whatever they wanted to do by putting their campers there. These regulations can open the door to regulate the limit of numbers of farm implements or housing for the employees of farmers and agricultural business. These regulations will carry out and affect all generations to come if you all vote and approve these regulations here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Do you have any more comments?
Gwen Holden, I already gave my address. 8150 West Point Drive. I'll do it again. I'll be nice. I think you all should let the people stay in their campers if they're hooked up to sewer, water, and electricity. You all have nasty junkyards. You never do anything about them. So these people that are living in these campers and taking care of their property and taking care of their campers, why not? They're not as bad as the junkyards. Ain't no telling what's running out of them. And there's no regulations at all on them. So I think to keep them from being homeless, they should live in their camper as long as they're hooked up to their facilities.
Thank you for your comment. Do you have any further comments? I see none. So Let me make this statement first. We're going to vote this or talk about this in two separate things. One is residing in RV campers. The other one is storage of campers. We're going to talk about residing in RV and campers first. Do I hear a nomination? We got to get it on the table first.
Can we do storage first?
No, we have to go in line.
Okay.
Okay.
We need a motion.
Would anybody like to make a motion, please?
Moving in RVs.
Ms. Ahern.
Ms. Ahern, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Horner, thank you. Do we have any discussion? Mr. Dudley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know everyone knows my stand on this and where I'm at. Number one, I don't think we have the right to tell people what they can do on their own property as long as they're not harming someone else. If you go to harming someone else, then you have that right. There's the talk of the eyesores and things of that nature. I'm sure if they're that bad an eyesore, then they're dangerous. Probably sewage running out, I don't know. That needs to be cleaned up. There's no doubt about that. But to those that are hooked up properly and are just trying to enjoy their own land that they own, something that they purchased, I don't see that we have a right to tell them. Some people want to say they're not meant for. Okay, but when did we as a governmental entity get the right to tell people what's safe for them and what's not? That's not our place. I had it put once to me by a citizen, and although it sounds a little crude, I'll just have to use their terminology because I can't think of anything better. When do we get to tell people you can't be a fool if you want to be one? If that's your choice to do that and you're not harming someone else, then I don't see we have the right to do it. Now, do I think we should have multiple campers on one property to live in? No. In no way, shape, form, or fashion on a parcel. At one point, it came before the planning commission at a meeting, and it voted on to pass it on through, or discussed to pass it on through, that as long as it was hooked up the same as a mobile home, that it would be passed through. Unfortunately, I had to miss the next meeting, and what happened in it, I have no idea, because it just dissolved. But I said it from minute one. My opinion, as long as they have dedicated sewer, water, and electric. Dedicated meaning you're not running a water hose off mom and daddy, and you're not throwing an extension cord, orange extension cord across their property. Then I don't see any problem with it, and I wish this commission would think about and approve it. And another thing that was said not long ago was said that we do not need to consider people's financial stature when we're looking at this. We're basically here to represent everybody. We have to think about their financial stature as well as every other option. Everything has to be considered in it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Hahn?
Thank you, Chairman Walker. I had, we've been kicking this around for quite a while, and I think it's time for a resolution. We want to get it done before budget time, but anyway, it's time. It's time we put this to rest. I spent some time the last couple of weeks thinking about it, driving around the county and looking, and there are, I got one, I won't mention where, but it's camper sitting there. It's neat, it's clean. It's got an electrical pole sitting there. I assume it's got water and sewer. I don't know that, but I'm assuming that. Guy's got a nice dually pickup truck backed up to it, and it's kept it clean and mowed around it. As I said last time, I think three things come into mind. We got security, safety, and sanitary conditions. If we can meet those things. And I wrote down these items, and I'll go through them real quick, and, everybody kind of take this to heart, because I think we need to have a permit process. We have it for housing, we can have it for campers. And with this permitting process, and we do this before they move in, we don't even have to charge for the permit. But this will allow for that camper to have a legal address. And with a legal address, now you get a garbage collection. And you get a post office, a box, mailbox. But more importantly out of all of that is, something happens, you have to call 911. You got an address, they can show up. You go out on Silver City Road, we've got a couple of campers out there, they're out in the middle of nowhere. 911 would have a very difficult time getting there. Going back to what we said before in another item, this is the third item, is electrical, plumbing, and septic has to be properly connected. I also say that the owner of the land and the owner of the camper has to be one and the same person. If you rent the land, then you rent the camper, or if you own the land, you can own the camper. But otherwise, they'll have a guy got a chunk of land, now he's renting out the owners. It needs to be one and the same. With single wide mobile homes, we only allow those in A1 zoning. We need to make that for campers also. I think that's congruent. I got down number 6 is proof of insurance, and I have a question mark there. For their own good, there ought to be some insurance, but I don't know if that's a pushable item. Number 7 is flood hazard area. All campers must be elevated above the floodplain. Can't be down next to a creek, it's going to flood. Houses are the same way. They have to be tied down or on permanent foundations. You can use the foundation tie down or over the top with proper setbacks. And then the last one is additional structures, decks, ramps, stairs, whatever, driveways must obtain proper permit prior to construction. And I list these things, and I also add to this, and then I will be quiet. As homeowners, house owners, let's put it that way, you have a house, you have certain restrictions that you have to go by. If you don't, then planning, Tommy's going to come out there and he's going to address it with you. So we have to follow those guidelines for everybody's good. And again, I'm not catering to the poor, to the rich, or anybody in between. I think we can make this work, but we do have to put restrictions, just like anybody that lives in a house has restrictions. Mr. Walker.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Green?
Along with yours, Bobby.
Wayne?
It's all right, let him go
Did you give me
first.
permission?
Ask Mr. Green first, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
The proper setback, they've got to be in A1. Follow those rules, that's the same rules you got for a single wide mobile home. Campers are following the same identical thing. Now, there's something gonna come up here in a minute, that's why I asked Keith to hang around. Effective January the 1st, the state of Tennessee says that you can, people that live in campers that are in campgrounds will have to pay a tax. The same thing going, we got the documents here, and Jefferson City's already doing this. People's got a camper, they want to get legal, they've got to send a picture of the camper in, the serial number, who manufactured it, date it's manufactured, how long it is, how wide it is. They've got to send that, and then the assessor's office, like Keith, will send them a tax on that camper. So the county's gonna make money off of all these, just off the taxes. Now, this is what Jefferson County's doing, but it's a state law. It's a
You
state
said
law.
Jefferson City. Is it Jefferson City or Jefferson County?
Jefferson County.
Okay.
Jefferson County. Jefferson County. So we've got the documents. If anybody want to look at them, or I wanted to show them to Keith, see if he knew about it.
Ms.
You know
Green?
about that, Keith? Keith knows about it. Am I right?
Yes.
Thank you.
It was passed, the state legislature did pass that law to pick those up.
And if you'll give me just a minute, I've asked Mr. Ely to speak while we're in discussion here about that, here in just a minute. But let's hear all the commissioners out first, please.
That was the question I had as well, Mr. Ely. What I got a hold of, the law they quoted to me down there was 67-5-501. And I'm assuming that's the one that you're going to address. And if it's not, I'll gladly, well, I'll gladly give you the copy I have in my possession. But it does talk about where the campers could be used as temporary or permanent residencies in this.
All permanent.
Yeah, it's on, hold on, pretty sure it's page 2 of that line. But they are going to tax, and the remark was made here several weeks ago that we couldn't get tax off of them was the reason that they didn't want it. Now, to me, that's a money grubbing deal, and I don't see it. And to me, I still live in America. If that's all I can afford, there shouldn't be a problem with it. Now, I do agree, we don't need sewage running across the property. But thanks to Chairman Hahn, thank you, Bobby, he educated me on a honeypot because I was dense and didn't know what it was. So if it can be used and be used sanitarily, I'm like Commissioner Doty. I don't see why we have a problem with it. We don't want any more homeless people. When we did our community outreach program, I was absolutely floored how many homeless people we had in Hamblen County. So I, for one, am not in favor of kicking these people out or kicking them under a bridge or kicking them anywhere you want to kick them. I think we need to be compassionate, reasonable folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Mr. Huntsman, would you like to say something?
Yes. I have a hard time dealing with this thing, but here's what I think. I think we've got a president right now that talks common sense, what he does. And I don't think we're using common sense about some things. When you pass a person out a camper and they've got a nice place there, they've got grass, they're fixed up nice like that, why should we penalize them for what they're doing and I can live in there for somebody that has trash? Why can't we get rid of the trash pickup people and everybody be more happy, I think, if you did that. And I think one way we could do that is what the chairman was talking about, but maybe is go with having permits to do certain things. And if you didn't matter to the permits, we can handle things like that. But I don't think we need the right to go here and just say, okay, 2 years from now, that's it, you gotta go, everybody can't live no more on the property. I'm against that, and I will stand for that. And I just hope somehow or another we get some common sense together and talk to people to be common out there too at the same time to fix their places up.
Okay. Did you want to say something, Ms.?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I noticed on the end, why not a tiny home? They're not allowed.
Okay, so let me add a couple comments, if you would, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the whole reason that we got into this to begin with is because of our building codes. Okay? Our building codes does not allow tiny homes or campers as a permanent dwelling because they don't meet our building codes. Our building code states they have to at least be 500 square foot. Our building code says they have to be built on site. Our building code says they have to be electrical inspected as well as plumbing inspected. Now, we heard that campers are inspected, but they have to meet the camper's standard. They're not the standards of our electrical rules in the state of Tennessee. Okay? When you build a new house, you have to have arc ground fault breakers in it. You don't have to have that in a camper. Okay? As well as if we allow campers, then we're going to have to throw our whole building codes out the window, and we're going to have to start over with a new building codes because we've just allowed us to violate our building codes. Okay? When we talk about campers, when this first came about, we had 50 campers that was on Tommy's list. Out of those 50 campers, we've had 31 people either move out of their camper, remove their campers, and went to different housing. We have 18 people still on that list, okay? Now, is that every camper in Hamblen County? No, okay? But we have people sitting with multiple campers. We have one camper on the west end that has 3 campers on one lot. That is considered a campground once you put 3 campers on one lot. We have another place on the east end that has 3 campers and a storage building someone's living in. That's considered a campground, okay? When we have these, we have to think, why are we in this situation? Because our county had a rule. Nobody followed the rules. So do we reward those people that did not follow those rules? We are given ample time. These people have had almost a year now when this started, that this was coming down the pike. The Planning Commission, they did a great job coming out with an exit date. That's what we're talking about today. What is the exit date to say, we're going to give these people another year and a half almost to find alternative housing. Okay? We're not trying to make people homeless. Okay? But we have to have a standard. Our standard is our building code. That's what we're enforcing, that we follow the rules that Hamblen County has. If we're not going to do this, when we start talking about other rules that we have in Hamblen County that doesn't affect people, then let's throw those rules out as well. Okay? I mean, why do we have rules? If we don't have rules, then what do we have? But is it okay to reward those that broke the law and moved in campers without getting a permit, without coming and asking planning if they could do it, that falsely said, I'm putting in a septic for a trailer, and instead I moved a camper on that side, and then another camper, and hooked that up to that same sewer system, when the people that followed the rules and called planning and said, can I live in a camper? No, you cannot. Then we turn around and say, well, we're going to reward those that didn't call because those that didn't call. Okay? Yes, our taxes, and that's what I wanted to ask Keith about the tax part of it, which has some merit to it. But again, how are we going to determine if that camper is sitting on that lot and that person says, I'm permanently living in it, or I'm just temporarily living in it? Because if they're temporarily living in it, you can't tax them. What Jefferson County is doing, and I call Jefferson County, it is unlawful to live in a camper in Jefferson County. But their tax appraiser decided that since those that are doing it, let's tax them for right now until we can find out what to do. And maybe that will make them go away. But what they're also doing is taxing people that are living in campgrounds. So like people that live in Hookers and Hunters full-time, or Fall Creek Boat Dock full-time. We can tax those campers under this new rule. But it's only to the appraisal of the value of their camper. Okay? And if you've ever owned a camper, you buy a $15,000 camper today, it's worth half of that tomorrow. And in 5 years, it's not even worth hauling to the next place. So how do we determine that value of a camper? And if Mr. Ely would like to express his comments on what he knows, I welcome him to come up to the podium and tell you guys what he knows about the rules of taxing campers.
Go ahead.
Going back to reference what Ms. Green said about that state statute. The only thing they did on that state statute is said anything less than 300 square foot you would not tax. They removed that sentence from that, okay? Let me give you my stance. What I haven't picked them up. Not going to till you all decide what you all want to do. Because if I go out there and tax them, I'm going against your all's wishes right now. That's why I haven't done anything, okay? There's some other things too. The state's not gave us any guidelines how to pick them up. Now they're going to set up a improvement type for mobile homes based on the quality of it. Like if it's an Airstream, it's going to be a mobile home 1, and if it's something that's a little prowler, it could be a Mobile home 5, let's get a different base rate to it. It also goes back to what you were saying too on depreciation. We'll depreciate those every year out, okay? So let me give you this example. Let's say you got a RV sitting on a piece of property. We have it valued at $12,000. You're looking at taxes for the year at about $59.71 based on last year's tax rate. Are we making money off of that? I would say not. I mean, you got to go out and pick garbage up on that. I don't know what my office is going to have to do. Right now, as we talked about with Mr. Long, you know, we go out and we check 25% of the parcels every year. Well, now I'm going to go out and check these and see if this is gone, that's gone, is that come in, and what's my timeline, what's going to be the cutoff date on those. I go out there on January 2nd, they move it in on January 3rd. Then they move it out on July the 30th. Do I tax it or not tax it? There's a lot of issues open for me to do my job. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm not going to jump off that ship till I know I got a life vest on, okay? So, I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but that's my take on it.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Nash.
To answer Mr. Ely's, I don't want to tell what everybody else to do, but Jefferson County sends out a form. You take a picture of your camper. You put your length, your width, who the manufacturer was, what your serial number was, and the date it was dated. That's what they're doing.
That's what they've done on their own. That has nothing to do with state statute or anything like that, PCA code. So there's nothing being established yet. If they want to do that, that's fine. But I don't know how she's picking them up timely and collecting taxes off of it. Because once again, when she picks them up, they move on September 30th. She mails her tax notice on October 1st. Where's the tax notice going?
That's a good
You know,
question.
there's going to be some issues like that.
That's a good question.
So we don't have the guidelines set up yet for us to do it.
But I'm just telling, that's what they're doing it right now.
I'm not saying she's doing it wrong, but I'm not saying she's doing it right either.
Yes, Mr. Cody.
Just a couple of things real quick. One thing, there was mention during our discussion about someone talking about not being able to tax is while we were doing it. That was merely rhetoric that was put out from the public as to why this was done. I'm against it, but I'm also against saying somebody on this body said that. No one on this body said that. That came from someone that was trying to give false information. But with that said, also again, just said that if we don't approve this or we go against this, that we're going to throw out our building codes. We have our Mr. McKinney here that I think can attest to this with me. That would only mean a single change to our building code. It would not mean throwing out our building codes and starting from scratch. If we approve this one on the storage, that's changing our building code there because it's not in it. So it's merely just a change. It's not a all or nothing. It's not a throw it out and start from scratch. So people, please vote your heart. Think about everybody when you're doing it. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McKinney, would you like to comment on that? Would it change our building codes in the sense that we're allowing a smaller dwelling that's not called for on our building codes?
Change this, do away with and have to rewrite, which is what was said.
Our building codes state that if you live in a structure in Hamblen County, that it has to adhere to the 2018 building code. Those codes were passed last year. We were 2012 before that. I don't have a personal vendetta against anybody living in a camper. I enforce Hamblen County's regulations as far as stormwater, bulk waste, building property maintenance. There's, I'll just say this, campers, according to HUD, are not permanent residences, okay? No matter what zone they're in, they're not considered anything that can be lived in permanent. They're made for recreational use only. Our regulations stipulate that if you live in a structure in Hamblen County, that structure has to be built and has to be adhered to by the 2018 building codes. That in itself, in a nutshell, commission is what I have to say about it, okay? And I don't want to elaborate any more on the regulations or the building codes or anything like that, but basically, that's what our Hamblen County codes since 1990 have been based on, that if you live in a structure in Hamblen County and it's built, it has to adhere to the building codes. And they have went up each year, or each section, different years. We're at 2018 now. Mr. Neesmith.
Question, how can you live in a campground if you can't live out on private property?
I can't answer that, sir. I don't regulate campgrounds. I regulate Hamblen County regulations.
Man, they don't go in and inspect it.
No.
They don't make sure it's up to building codes to live in a campground. We don't inspect ours that are on Cherokee Park that live in our permanently.
Good point.
I do know that if you have a piece of property and you actually go by the state's regulations for campgrounds, that you can, in an A1 zone in Hamblen County, you can create a campground. But it has to adhere to the state regulations for a campground.
There's no minimum you could have, is there?
That, sir, I don't know.
You could, we'll just make it Bobby Hawn's campground with one camper.
My name on it.
Legally, that's what we're saying.
Thank you.
Well,
Go ahead.
May I ask? Okay.
Yes, Ms. Howe.
Mr. McKinney, so right now,
Bought him a camper.
according to the building codes you just explained, then there should be no campers.
For permanent residents, yes.
Okay.
They do not, according to the Housing and Urban Development, the government states that they are not, the United States government does not recognize them as a permanent residence. They do recognize them as recreational and for you to, enjoy and so forth.
All right. Now, so right now, do we have 18 that are not, haven't moved in?
18 out of the 50 that we sent letters to. That was on Tommy's list.
But you think there's more?
Oh, there is plenty more, yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Watch that minute.
Now, if this passes, I think they have 24 months to do something about it.
Yes.
Yeah, the draft right there in front of you is what the Planning Commission is presented to
Yes, sir.
the Hamblen County Legislative Body. And basically, the legislative, the Planning Commission wanted to give a significant amount of time for folks to better themselves as far as housing is concerned. That is what the 2 years is for. The reason they have 2 years and cutting it off at that is if you say that it's permanent, then it goes against the regulations of what a house in Hamblen County is supposed to be, what a living home is supposed to be.
Yes, sir.
That's why they did not say that it was okay to put them in an A1, because they know that if you put them in an A1, a camper is not, it does not meet Hamblen County regulations.
Mr. McKinney, you can live in a camper as long as you're building a house.
That's correct.
As long as you're making progress on building that house.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take this brick and set it over there today, and next week I'm gonna set it back. That progress?
That's not progress.
What's progress?
Significant progress.
Significant.
2 bricks, no.
I love it.
I mean, I know people it's taken them 3 or 4 years to build their house that lives in campers.
Yeah, it's high as it is right now.
And y'all give them authority to do it.
Do they not have to come back after so often to show progress to that?
The building
to plan it.
inspector does go by, and if they have not made progress, if there's not been anything done to a structure within, say, 3 or 4 months, it's set there, they do get a letter from him asking where they're at. If they state that they're at a dead stop and financially they can't go any farther, he will nullify the permit at that time, and for them to start back again, they have to come and pay a 50% fee on the original permit. So if it was a $1,500 permit, they'd have to come back and pay $750 to start back if they stop for, months at a time. That is office policy, and it is in our regulations.
Several things can be included on progress. Like a water line, I've got to build across the Slade Hill, and we're digging it, and it's taking a lot longer. Instead of building it in one day, it's taking us 6 months. Is that progress? We're getting our water line in? I want to know where your progress
You see,
is.
Mr. Neesmith, but I
His
think
progress is a
that's
big,
just
is a big
a
item.
nitpicky question, sir, that I don't really think I want to answer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Howe?
Yes, sir, if I may. Thank you, sir.
And then Debbie's got some.
Okay. So if they decided to become a campground, I mean, they could do that, couldn't they? We don't know anything about developing a campground, do we?
Right.
That's a whole nother, thank you. Oh, okay.
That
thank
back
you.
sewer,
Yes,
water,
Ms.
and electric.
Ahern?
That's it.
I'm just curious, does anyone, it's a curious question, does anybody know how many private campgrounds we have?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Does anybody know?
I think there's 3. Well, if we count Cherokee Park and.
Other
Panther, we
than,
don't-
that's not considered,
Right, those are public.
yes, so there's a,
It would be 3 of them.
I think we have 3 of them in Hamblen County.
because I toured one just to get an idea, and it was really nice, it was at Fall Creek. Just curious, I didn't know how many private ones, because, anybody can have their camper there if they, go by the rules and regulations of the private campground.
Mr. Horner and then Mr. Long.
Campground guidelines are different than what Hamblen County's would be, correct?
Correct. They're more stricter because you have to you have to have a certain amount of power grid. You have to have a certain amount of lots that are hookups and where you can have those lots. And before you can even get a permit for a campground, it's got to come to zoning, I think. But they also have to have an engineer design your campground out of how many spots you're going to have, because that's what the state determines, what kind of septic you have to have, or how you're going to pick up the waste, how much water you have to have, how many outlets, how much power you have to control those campgrounds. And each campground normally each camper has to have a 50 amp breaker, a 30 amp breaker, as well as a 20 amp breaker. And those all have to be no-fault ground breakers per campsite. So the cost to do a campground is not, for the price to do that, to put one camper, you could probably just buy a house that way.
I got one from McKinney.
Okay, hold on. Mr. Long.
First of all, we have to represent everybody in Hamblen County. And when we looked at this on the Plan Commission, it's a hard subject. Nobody wants nobody to be homeless. But then we have voters that are saying, I don't want this beside of me. For instance, one person with a camper, they were going up to his water spigot during the day when he's at work stealing water. Now, not all of them are doing that. Not all of them are dumping sewer. Not all of them are drug houses. A lot of them are nasty. I wouldn't even think about living in them. in that report of the homeless people, you didn't see nobody that was homeless living in a camper that was listed on that list when they went out. We have no idea if we say, no, you can't live in them, if these, how many they might be homeless. I'm not sure if that's a high number. Not sure that it's a high number at all. But when you start saying that you can do anything you want to on your property, and that's what's being said by somebody that's like accusing somebody on this board or the planning commission, saying that we was only going to do it because of the tax issue, I take offense to it. It did come from a negative point of view from the other side of that rail, like it always has, like a certain person that don't even live in this county and keeps telling this commission that she lives in this county at a certain address. We represent the people of Hamblen County. On a Saturday when we met, we tried to compromise. We tried to go to a code A1, like a mobile home. No, they did not want to do the electric. They did not want to do the water. They bucked against it. Mr. Doty was not here that Saturday. And that's how that got this took off. You try to compromise, and there wasn't no compromise. So there'll be no compromise if you pass this through. There'll be no coming and getting a permit. They've done proof to you they're not going to do that. Mr. McKinney does not have the manpower to go out and enforce this. I mean, we are covered up with sanitation and everything, and you keep saying, well, we'll just give you a permit and you'll do this. They won't do it. They'll come and get a permit saying, I'm going to put in a mobile home, and the next thing you know, guess what? They broke the rule. They've put in a camper instead of a mobile home. I've talked to a lot of my voters in my district, and the thing they tell me, we do not want to be a Granger County. We do not want them hanging off of every cliff that there is. Granger County has no rule on this, and they're everywhere. Greene County do not allow them, but guess what? They have 4 Tommy McKinneys that enforce it. They have 4 code enforcement people. Jefferson County does not allow them. From what I'm told in Jefferson County, they're only going to charge a tax on the ones in the campground for right now. I think Mr. Ely just told you how hard it is to tax a camper. They'll move it in, move it out. And I feel for some people that there'll be a few that's going to be hit by this, but that's the reason the Planning Commission put 24 months. I think 24 months is a fair thing about trying to figure out what you're going to do. And yes, you can have one building a house, but let's be real about it. You need to be in the process of building a house. If you're trying to just put a brick here, brick there, you're scheming the system, is what you're doing. So I just feel like that we live in a beautiful county. Guess why people want to come to Hamblen County? Because it's a beautiful place to live. It's got a tax rate that is, I mean, you look around you. That's why people want to come to Hamblen County, because it is such a beautiful county. And we do have rules. We've had rules ever since this world was made. You have to have rules. You cannot just let anybody do anything they want to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Mr. Bell?
Without rules, you have chaos. Without rules, you're not able to function. I'm against anybody being homeless. But with the information, it's 50 and 18 still there, but the 40 or the 32, no homeless. That tells me that people are choosing to live in the camper because they can, because there is nobody to enforce or keep them from doing this. The lady that spoke concerning the gentleman that's sick, my heart goes out. But what can we do if we give 2 years? Do we reach out as a county with our hearts to these people? But I go back to what Chairman Hahn said. Safety and sanitation is two things that has been bothering me about this whole thing. What if someone has a camper that's plugged into a 220 or 110 outlet and it overheats and you have a fire on either side? Who's going to say who's to blame? So I think that we need to take this to heart, but a camper is a temporary dwelling, something that can be moved. Thank you.
If that's all for discussion, we'll call a vote. Do you think we should do the vote off the board?
No, we'll cut the regular vote.
Regular vote?
No, we'll just do it.
Okay. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, can you explain what we're voting for so we're all clear?
Okay. We're voting to accept the Planning Commission's draft to go in effect. And we need to clarify, and I can ask Mr. Long. Planning gave them 24 months from when planning adopted this. So are we going to do 24 months?
The 24 months
from the commissioners?
Commission passes.
That's right. Okay. So they would have 24 months from today.
From the 20th.
On the
when
20th,
the full commission.
when it goes through committee.
Right.
So we're giving them again to 27 to have it rectified.
Does this leave out A, the storage of campers?
The storage is going to be voted separate.
Thank you.
Is this only part D, the use of a camper as a permanent dwelling?
Yes,
That's all
this
it
is only talking about allowing campers as a permanent dwelling.
So a yes vote is we're
A
accepting
yes
planning.
vote
A no
is that
vote-
we're accepting it. A no vote would be we're not accepting.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may you clarify when we say no is that we're not accepting, what a no vote means?
No vote would mean you're allowing campers to be a permanent resident. A yes vote would mean
No.
what?
No, that's not right. That's
A
not
no
right.
vote, a no vote, you're not doing anything.
Except-
You're going back to the 2018 building codes,
Yeah.
and they are not allowed,
allowed.
allowed period, so they can be removed in the next few days.
Yes.
Is what you're doing.
Yes. If we don't vote this in, that means they can, there's no limit for them. It's against our 2018 building codes, which means Tommy can go out there tomorrow and say, it's got to be removed. The compromise is that we vote this in, they're allowed 2 years to rectify the problem.
If I may, but then again,
That's all in
once
one
that
vote.
happens and this is found and Tommy gets in the letter, it's still got to go to court and be arbitrated in front of a judge because just our regulation doesn't give right for us to go in and haul someone's property off of their land. So, no, it's not going to be an immediate thing. It would have to go before a judge before there's
But they could start the process.
They can start the process,
Yes.
yes.
So the vote is, if you want to vote along with what planning says and gives 24 months, you vote what?
Yes.
You vote yes. If you vote not to go along with planning, you vote no, and people can live in campers.
Well,
No,
not
that's
saying
not
they live in
correct.
campers. It's just saying we're not adopting what planning has said here, because it's already been voted, already been passed long ago that it was not allowed. I don't even really know why we're doing all this, but we are, but this is just putting more regulation on it. I don't really know, but,
So if you're for people living in campers, what do you vote?
that's to your own discretion.
You vote yes or no?
At your own discretion. If you like what they've got written, you vote yes.
If you don't, you vote no.
Mr. Nick,
You vote no.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
The people that's got real fine homes, or they got all fixed up, I mean, you know, I would say fine, but $20,000, $30,000 camper out there, fixed up nice, are they gonna have to go under the same rule that in 2 years, they're gonna have to move out of that place?
Yes.
If we vote yes?
Yes. And here's the thing you've got to take on that. How do you define that their camper is nice and new versus someone that just bought a $1,500 camper?
It's
that
called
says-
common sense.
But see, that's the problem, Joe. You've got to go with your common sense. You've got to go with that person that's in that camper, their common sense. Because everybody's going to say, mine is my castle, mine is nice and new. Okay? We can't, you have to have a rule that you can define. And the define is going to be yes or no.
Let's go ahead and take the vote.
Okay?
Chairman Hahn, may I ask a question, please?
Please make it quick.
I'll make it quick. I'm just not sure what. I don't believe that I think we ought to be able to have it as a permanent residence.
I
And I
understand.
don't think we ought to be able to restrict that they can't stay in. So please tell me how I vote my conscience and vote that way, because I can't see either on one of these options right.
If you believe that way, you vote no.
Okay, thank you.
well, I beg to differ, just because what he answered my question. Sir, I asked, if you vote no, define what that means, and he said, and please correct me, Chairman Walker, that if we vote no, that means it goes to what it is
Now.
right now, that there's no regulations of staying in a camper.
Yes.
That's correct, if you vote no. If you vote yes at this point in time, people have 24 months.
Before they have to vacate.
Yes.
Everybody got a copy of the planning commission's
Yes.
proposal, and we're voting to either approve that or to not approve. Essentially.
Yes to approve, no not to approve. That's right, Bobby.
Mr. Walker?
I call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
No. That's not the vote right now, is it?
No, it's
Do a voice
put it on the commission.
Do a roll call.
Let's do a roll call. Let's do a roll call, please.
Call the roll.
The vote will be next Thursday.
I don't think somebody knows, got it down right yet, Bobby.
Amen.
Well, okay, maybe I can clarify that. I just want to know if we-
Okay, Joe, yes to accept the draft, no to not accept the draft from the planning commission.
If we're not going to actually vote today, because we'll vote.
We're voting.
We vote today, and then it goes to
Just
committee.
to put it on the committee, okay.
Yeah, this is to get it on the agenda.
So all we're doing is just, if we vote
Put it
yes,
on
we're
the agenda.
planning to put it on.
Yes.
Okay.
Call the roll.
Call the roll, please.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Danny Bell,
Yes.
Thomas Doty,
No.
Edna Green,
No.
Dan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Yes.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe.
Not a choice, Peggy.
Oh,
That
golly.
is an odd one.
I'm going to say no. No.
Joe Huntsman,
No.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Wayne Neesmith,
No.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker,
Yes.
9 yes,
No.
5
no.
Okay, we got 9 yes, 5 no.
Good days.
Item 4B, storage of a RV and camper. And I put that in, asking for a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Harville? I have a first from Mr. Harville. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Bell. Do we have any discussion? Yes, Mr. Doty.
I've said it forever. I don't think we have a right to tell people what they can store on their own property. But if we start limiting this to 2 campers of storage, not of somebody staying in, but 2 campers of storage. What about all the cattle trailers and car haulers and farm trailers and everything that's out there right now? I think we're overstepping our bounds any way we go with it, but I think this is egregious. I would ask everyone to deny the storage of because we don't have that problem now, so why make a problem where there's not one?
Now, when you say deny, you really mean to stay out of the storage business?
Yes.
Yes, sir, okay.
But the question is, are we going to?
Mr. Naismith?
The storage of campers is not in the 2018 International Building Codes. There's no codes on storing the campers. It's not, this other is in it. This is not in it. How can you vote to store a camper? I'm having board, you can store 2 campers on your property. That's all I got.
Ms. Green?
First of all, I agree with Commissioner Doty and the rest of you. What's to keep them from going first? You can't have tractors sitting. You can't have bush hogs sitting. You can't have plows sitting.
Yeah,
Not
right.
been too many years ago, Planning Commission went after the folks that had machinery sitting in the fields. They sent out letters if the grass got so high. I was one of those people that got one of those beautiful letters. And then after they found out they didn't have the law behind them, they had to back off. We are overreaching. This is still America. We still have a constitutional rights. This is a bunch of baloney. We need to keep our nose out of it. That's the same thing as telling me I can't set a dirt bike in the front yard. So I live in the country for a reason, folks. We keep cattle trailers, we keep enclosed trailers, we keep regular trailers. The next thing you'll come out is people that have rollbacks and wreckers can't park them. So this is overreach.
Yes.
What are you gonna do with people like, Walmart or what, like Walmart's got all kinds of storages around these places there, or like, Food City or like, Home Depot or. But they got all the stuff to store stuff there already.
That's a commercial.
Okay. What about the people that, down on High Street and First Main there, it's a pawn shop there, and he's got 4 different storages all across there.
It's a city, it's a business in the city.
So it doesn't make a difference, business or not business? Is that what it is?
Well, it does. You're not gonna live in a horse trailer.
No.
We've seen a couple do it.
I think we're getting stressed out of it.
Any more comment?
I think you look at this, how many
Yes, Mr.
cars
Hall.
you want sitting in your front yard or backyard? Is 20 in your backyard, you as my neighbor, acceptable? No. Is 5, 6, 7 campers? I think it's something you have to look at. I think there's a big difference between campers and farm equipment or cattle
I agree with
trailer.
that. That's right.
You know, not saying that, you know, that they don't have quite a few around at times.
Ms. Hahn?
Well,
Want to say something? Hal, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I agree. I mean, if you want to store a camper on your property, you should be able to. And that's how I. Can I throw in cattle trailers too? Anyways, okay.
Sounds good.
Mr. Naismith?
I take my camper camping, I come back in and store it. I'm not going out for, say, a month. or 2 weeks, you're telling me I can't do that? I can't store a camper on my own property?
They're telling you
That's
can.
not what we're
Can't store it. That's
No,
what
no,
they're
they're
saying.
saying,
no,
they're saying
that's
you
not
can't
what it
store
says.
multiples.
Huh?
You can't store more than 2.
Can't score more than 2.
If all your kids bring their home and yours is there, no, you can't.
Well, my kids brought theirs in, so I got 3.
Well, what it could run into is you're running a commercial enterprise of storing campers,
Build you a big.
and it's not a
barn,
commercial
which is
property. And, you know, you have to
Okay, then.
look at both angles of it.
And that can be
I think
addressed
it's
as
overrated
that.
too, just like.
And we can all, you know, you also have the right, and this was brought out in planning, and Mr. Doty, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you can go and ask for a variance, because with that rule, it was, some people said, well, I can't put a camper in my backyard because of the layout of my ground. They could go to planning and ask for a variance to say, my backyard is straight uphill. The only place I have to park my camper would be on the side of my house, which is also on the side of a road. Would the commission, would they give them a variance? If you came to planning and said, I store on my agricultural land or my farm, my camper, my son's camper, and my daughter's camper.
No.
Okay, would they give you a variance for 3 campers? But the problem is, you may have somebody, Wayne, that has 5 campers stored at their land. Does the average person own 5 campers? Or are they storing them because Joe's paying me $100 a month to let him store his camper at my barn, and Sue's paying me $100 a month? So is that considered a commercial business rather than a residential thing? And even with that, we have some people, and this is in, and I have it in my district, some people that have 3 and 4 campers in a backyard on a half-acre lot. So are they really storing the camper, or is it more likely somebody's living in that camper? And that's the reason for the storage of multiple campers.
In A1?
Not only in A1, this is in a residential zone,
R1, R2.
R1 and R2.
Well, this thing we just voted on a while ago was you gotta live in A1.
Okay, let's move ahead.
Okay, if no more discussion, let's vote.
Storing a camper.
Storage of a camper. If you vote yes, you're voting to accept what planning is come up with. If you're voting no, then you're against the rule of storage of a camper, and you're not voting for what the commission planning has put forth.
Just like last time.
Okay? You want to do this by roll?
Let's go ahead and do roll call.
Let's do roll call, please.
Debbie Ahern,
Yes.
Danny Bell,
Yes.
Thomas Doty,
No.
Edna Green,
No,
Stan Harville,
Yes.
Bobby Hahn,
Yes.
Tim Horner,
Yes.
Peggy Howe,
Yes.
Joe Huntsman,
No.
Rodney Long,
Yes.
Wayne Neesmith,
No.
Mike Reed,
Yes.
Mike Richardson,
Yes.
Kyle Walker.
Yes.
10-4.
Motion passes 10-4. Mr. Walker.
Item 5A, none item of interest. I adjourn.
Thank you, Chairman Walker. We'll now move to our Calendar and Rules Committee. Chairman Thomas Doty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call the Calendar and Rules Committee meeting to order. If there's anyone wishing to address this body about agenda items, do so now. You have 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move forward with old business. We have none. With new business, we have our regular calendar items. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Ahern, thank you so much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Howell. Any discussion on this? Hearing, seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4B is a review of the consent calendar items. Do I have a motion to approve? So moved. Move, Mr. Horner. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Reed. Do we have any discussion on this? Hearing, seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Doty. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone's attendance, your hard work. A little bit longer than usual, but that's okay. We've covered some bases tonight. Everyone have a safe journey home. See you on the 20th. We're adjourned.